Hello everyone, Oli here, and welcome to my review of The Macra Terror, the seventh story of the fourth season of classic Doctor Who, starring Patrick Troughton as the second Doctor. The Macra Terror is a 34th story overall, 4 episodes long, and is written by Ian Stewart Black. All 4 episodes are unfortunately missing, but they were animated for a DVD release last year, as of the making of this review. Telesnaps exist, fortunately, with alongside 8mm home footage and Australian surviving sensor clips. So the plot of the story is as follows. The Doctor and his companions, Jamie, Polly and Ben, arrive on a human colony in the far-flung future. The colony outwardly appears to be happy and carefree, but behind this cheerful exterior, the colony has been secretly infiltrated by a race of giant parasitic creatures called Macra. The Macra brainwash human colonists to mine toxic gas in the levels below the colony. Ruling the settlement from a control center in the heart of the main city, they scuttle around at night looking for food. The Doctor's friend Ben is soon taken over by the Macra, and under their malign influence, he turns against the Doctor. As the influence spreads, the Doctor sets out to bring an end to the Macra Terror. So, in my opinion, the Macra Terror is a fun, underrated story. Despite a few flaws, but the acting and the animation in this actually saves the story. Also, we also get a new title sequence in this story with Patrick Troughton's face, and I would say that title sequence is actually one of my favorites ever, and we actually get it until the end of the War Games. And also, we also get a new. No, actually, the 1963 theme actually remains in this episode, and we don't get the full 1967 theme until episode 2 of the Faceless Ones. And that remains until 1980 with the Horns of Nimon. Considering the fact that the animation doesn't strictly follow the telesnaps, you can see the production in the telesnaps, and it looks rather decent. The sets were alright. I like the Earth colony and its surroundings. I like the pits where the Doctor Jamie and Polly had to work with the Danger Gang after they were sent there after they ignored the warnings about the Macra, and then I think the main controller guy that was appearing on the screen, he was taken by the Macra. The direction was alright, the script was decent, and the set, because you can't really see like everything in the telesnaps, they looked rather basic, but it was okay. And this story actually has one of my favorite pieces of music in Doctor Who. I really like the acting in this story. Patrick Troughton was really good. He did what he was given. He did his best. And for once, Jamie actually does a fair bit in this story. So obviously, the writer actually had more time to find a way to incorporate Jamie compared to the other two stories where he was just either in the background or unconscious after being silly. And I like the bits where Jamie actually escaped from the Danger Gang and found his way into the cheerleading practice thingy. And he actually showed them the Highland Fling in order to escape, but he's actually caught by brainwashed Ben. And that was a pretty funny scene. Polly was okay. She doesn't do a whole lot, but she does have some good scenes with the Doctor, and she actually does find where the Macro was operating with the Doctor in the story. Ben actually does play a vital role in here, and I really like that. I mean, he gets brainwashed by the Macra, and he really impressed. And I think it was really impressive because Ian Stewart Black actually managed to find a way to have an internal struggle for Ben, who was obviously brainwashed by the Macra, but then he has this sudden struggle to like he wants to help the Doctor and his friends, even though he's been brainwashed by the Macro. It's basically like the whole Mr. Clever situation in the new series with the Doctor and with the 11th Doctor and Mr. Clever, who was, if I can recall, was infected by a Cyberman or something. Yeah, and then you obviously see the Doctor and Mr. Clever switching around, but in this situation, Ben, he's obviously fully possessed by the Macro, but then even just the tiniest bit of he wants to try and help the Doctor and his friends, but then he obviously can't. But obviously, thank God, he actually snaps out of it, and then it actually helps the Doctor to defeat the Macra by blowing them up. Now the side characters, none of them are too memorable, but there were some I liked. I mean, I liked Murdoch. I mean, he was the only one that actually noticed that the colony wasn't as it seems because of the Macra, and tries to help them see that there was a Macra Macra's influence, but he's obviously portrayed as a madman and is sent away to prison or something. No, to the mental institute. But then obviously he tells the doctor, and then the doctor obviously believes him. And obviously the episode 1 cliffhanger, we have Medoc and the doctor looking at the Macra for the first time. And obviously Ola, the chief of police dude, he was a decent character. He was a good foe for the doctor, Ben, before he got brainwashed by the Macra, Polly and Jamie. And I like the pilot too. He was a cool character. I mean, he was a fun guy. And then obviously, despite with the madness that was going on with the Macra, he actually managed to keep his calm and just carrying on with the story. And I also like the plot twist that the controller wasn't who he seemed to be. I know he was obviously had this attractive dude in the front in the screen, but then later on you just see this old man behind the screen and obviously getting kidnapped by the Macra, and that's actually the surviving clip as well. And he ends up getting kidnapped by the Macra. Now onto the main villain, so obviously the Macra. The Macra is basically a giant crab, as you can see. This isn't clear. As you can see in this, as you can see here, this is the Macra, the big crab. He was a good villain. I mean, the Macra was very menacing, and how they brainwashed the entire colony, even so powerful enough for them to like ignore the Doctor and Medoc's pleas that there was the Macra that was going to cause harm to everyone. It is actually quite frightening. I mean, imagine you're in this colony and you don't understand what's going on at all. You're just minding your own business, and then someone's just like saying to you that you're in danger, that you'll be under control and stuff like that, and you were like, that's nonsense. And that was actually frightening. And obviously another frightening bit was in episode 2, where it is actually a surviving clip itself, with Ben and Polly trying to fight the Macra when the Macra actually caught Polly's foot, and then Ben, who was still brainwashed by the Macra, he's trying to like free Polly by hitting the Macra with a stick, and then he does free her, but they end up getting caught by another Macra. And then obviously when they escape, Polly is like telling the doctor and the others like the Macra is there, I saw it, and then Ben, who actually did see it himself, but he was actually brainwashed, he was like, I saw something, but I don't know what she's talking about. And that was a very damning scene. And also, speaking of the cliffhangers, they were quite scary, and I mean, I really like the episode 3 cliffhanger the most because it actually features Jamie, who was trying to escape from the poison gas in the mines, but then as soon as he tries to escape, he's in front of a Macra, and as big as it is, it's very frightening. So now onto the animation itself. I would say the animation is excellent and really well done, and as I mentioned before, the animation doesn't really follow the telesnaps, but the animators really thought outside the box and tried to capture what the writers were trying to envision when it was made in 1967. Although one thing that does peeve me by the animation was that some scenes were actually cut out because of either timing issues or was rather difficult to animate, such as the rough and tumble scene in episode 1. This is when the Doctor and co actually arrive at the colony, and then they're greeted by the captain, and then I think one of the lads is actually trying to introduce the Doctor into making him clean, and then obviously the Doctor didn't really like his new neat appearance, and then Paul was like, "Oh, Doctor, you look gorgeous. Ooh, Doctor," and then the Doctor doesn't really like it, and then he sees this machine, and he's like, "What does this machine do?" And then the other guys was like, "This is the rough and tumble machine. This is like turns the muscles and something like that." And then the Doctor actually enters the machine, and then he's pretty much dirty again. And also another scene that was actually cut out was the ending of the story itself. I mean, in the animation, you actually see the Doctor. Ben actually warns the Doctor, saying, "Oh, they're gonna make you the leader of the colony," and then they all and they all leave. But then in the actual story itself, the Doctor, Ben, and Polly and Jamie actually dance their way out of the colony into back to the TARDIS. I wish they did. I wish they actually kept that scene. But I don't really have that much issues with the story other than the animation. But I do wish that Medoc was kept alive a bit longer, to be honest. Maybe for him to see the end of the Macra or something like that. Maybe it would have been better if he was the leader of the colony after the Doctor and co went back to the TARDIS. So to sum up, the Macra Terror is a brilliant story. It's a bundle of fun to watch. It's basically a campy holiday gone wrong, and I would actually give the story a 9 out of 10. My next review will be The Faceless Ones, another animated story that was recently animated, and Ben and Polly's final story. Thanks for watching this review. Like and subscribe to this channel and let me know what you thought of this review and the Macra Terror itself. Until then, see you later, guys.